First things first here on this grain segment of the Market Day Report. Let's go to the edge of the trading floor and visit with Scott Gecas, who is there keeping a sharp eye on the activity there. What's the volume like today over here in the grain complex?
Today it's pretty light coming in the morning. Yesterday it had a slight tick up. Not really explosive volume, but it did have a little bit of a pickup with the little bit of pressure that we had yesterday. Right. So when you're looking at the beans, we had all kinds of rhetoric going back and forth. We had the waivers being in place for China. It's all the way out to March on about 10 million tons of beans. But at the same time, they said it was a lack of Chinese interest, and that was confirmed by China buying 10 to 15 cargoes from Brazil. So that's one of the reasons why we had a lot of downside pressure. The one thing I do want to make note of is when I was on Monday, the option skew was about $4 to the upside calls. Coming into this morning, that skew absolutely flattened. Now the calls are having a slight skew, but a lot less, not even $1 worth of skew. So that means that downside pressure is looking to continue to be a little bit lower. So we're going to have to wait and see how it comes in. The overnight market was a little bit higher. Then we had a big sell-off, and now they're under pressure a little bit. So we're going to see how that really is going to play out.
Yeah, now we're testing a little bit of support here. In fact, we're even underneath it just a little bit. Same thing for the corn market, too. Weakness last night on the overnight trade, weakness here in the day trade, and again, now we're at or even below some of the support that we've had here. So it almost looks like we're starting to set things up for maybe getting range bound or a breakdown of both of these.
Yeah, and with the corn market, I mean, it's just having a really hard time getting up that $4 level. So, we get close, and then we have that big pullback, and it just still continues to be under pressure. The skew in the corn market has a slight skew to the upside calls, just as expected. That's pretty normal for this time of year. But, I mean, we're looking for downside pressure. We're looking for a little bit lower.
2 pennies off of the low right now, 3.86 on the December contract. Scott, we're down 2 cents on the December corn contract. The March is down 2. The May is down 2. A lot of these contracts down 2 pennies. Over the soybean side, November down 2 at 9.32. The January down 1 3/4. But let's look at the Chicago wheat market. There's strength over here. December Chicago wheat up 4.5. New crop July is up 3. Over in the Kansas City wheat market, December's up 2 1/4, and July is up 3. So, yeah, we're starting to put a little strength back over here in the wheat. Is there anything behind it?
Well, we'll see. I mean, this is a weird market on a technical level with the wheat because we had that big sell-off yesterday. It broke that support, completely broke that uptrend, but now we're getting a little bit of strength. So we need to close above yesterday's highs for that trend to continue the upside. Whether or not that's going to hold, we have to wait and see.
Scott, I sure appreciate it. We'll hold on here for just a moment. We'll bring you back on the other side, and we'll analyze what's going on in the livestock trade. That's straight ahead. Stay with us here on the Market Day Report. Pick up where we left off, and that was at the edge of the trading floor with Scott Gecas at Walsh Trading. Had a few deliveries against that October contract this morning over here in the fats, and a little bit of pressure there, but you look at some of the deferreds, they're just slightly higher early on in this Wednesday session over here in the cattle market.
Yeah, with the cattle market, I mean, it's a little odd. I mean, it's very strong. So we had that big pullback in the hogs. Cattle stayed pretty much steady. So we have the cutout values that were very strong as well. So the traders that we've been talking to, as well as the farmers, are waiting for that cash to tick up a little bit. Once you see that cash tick up a little bit, I think we're going to get some increase in interest in upside buying. And if that happens, we could test that 115 level, and that's what we're looking for. In the hog market, it's completely different. You have all kinds of things going back and forth. The Asian markets and the Asian countries are increasing their import campaign. We're seeing record imports to Asia, especially with the African swine fever epidemic. But the thing that's pushing these markets lower in the hogs is just the U.S. production. U.S. production keeps ramping up for that 2020 campaign. So we're expecting that campaign to continue to increase. And the reason why we're expecting that campaign to increase is because Chinese prices are up over 200% versus last year. So if they want to suppress those little prices a little bit, they're going to have to continue with that import campaign.
That is a lot of percentage of an increase there. Also saw this morning some statistics that show that they're increasing to buy a little bit more beef and import a little bit more beef than they were as well. also subtracting from the protein complex worldwide. Let's look at the futures market. Over here in the live cattle right now, well, we had a little bit of mixed action early on, and that's just because of that October contract where we're down 45 at 109.42. The December up 65, the February up 53. In the feeder cattle market, it's all higher here with November up 22, January up 47 at 140.28, and the March up 57. But as Scott was mentioning, weakness in the hogs. December up 110. That's the exception to the rule. It's at 66.60. The February is down 38. The April's down 78 at 82.35. So, like you were mentioning, a little bit of weakness here. But as you go out to the as far out deferred, Scott, sure looks like this market's still hoping for a deal with China.
Yeah, and if we get that deal with China, we expect pretty much everything across the board to explode to the upside. It doesn't really matter what market. I think the stocks are going to go higher, all the grains are going to go higher, and the proteins are going to go higher.
All right, well, and that's a day-by-day issue so far. Well, Scott, thank you very much. We sure appreciate it. Scott Gecas is with Walsh Trading at the edge of the trading floor.